What up, what up, what up? What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. As you guys know, last week was the first episode of our Best Ball Summer Series. Excuse me, had to clear the throat. But at the end of the day, look, this is week 2 of that Best Ball Mania series. So it's a Best Ball Summer for us, hence, the warm vibes, the sun hat, and everything we got going on. We are going to be doing a Best Ball Mania 6 draft today. I got a new really cool tool that I want to show you guys that we are going to be using tonight. So all of that considered, really, we're just going to get in and get after it. So John, I see you in the chat. He says, what up, man? And for the folks at home, if you're just tuning in like everybody else, you see I have a little pinned poll in the chat. If we can get to 20 likes by the time that this Best Ball Mania draft is over, we will rip a second draft, giving us 2 drafts here on stream tonight. So I'm going to enter this tournament. Let me flip over to the screen over here. As you guys can see, Best Ball Mania 6. We're going to be going into the 30-second per pick draft room. So if you guys want to hop into that room with us, go ahead and do so. We are going to enter $25 deducted from the balance. This is our second Best Ball Mania team that we have done on stream. I've been ripping a bunch of puppies, a bunch of schnauzers, some other drafts as well off stream, some slow drafts, some fast drafts, trying to get it all together. We're still waiting on 10 people, but as you can see, we're drafting over here on Underdog. If you've never played on Underdog and you want to learn about Underdog and you want to support the show, you can definitely do that by checking them out, and I'll give you a little bit more information about them as well. Playing drafts or sweating pick'ems, there's no off season on Underdog, which means there's still plenty of ways to cash in big this summer. No matter the sport you're watching, Underdog has you covered, and all you have to do is pick higher or lower on your favorite athletes from whatever sport, put them into a pick'em entry, watch the winning multiplier increase, click play, and win real cash. So what are you waiting for? Download Underdog and start playing today. Plus, when you use promo code LEAGUEFFB, Underdog will give you a new customer special, which is a free square for your first pick'em entry, and they will give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash, giving you the perfect head start to winning big on Underdog. So if you want to support our show and get in on some daily fantasy sports action, click the link in our description to sign up for Underdog using code LEAGUEFFB. So thank you to our sponsors over at Underdog, and with that out of the way, let's get back into the action. All right, so if you guys want to go support the channel, you guys can do that on Underdog. I'm not going to plug that anymore tonight, but that's exactly how you can support this channel. So I would appreciate it. If you've never played, you want to play, you like what we're doing, you can go do that. John says, have you ever placed well in a big tourney? Just to be totally transparent with you, John, I have not really ever went very heavily into a best ball mania. Last year was the most drafts that I have ever done on Underdog in one season. It was about 100 drafts that I did last year, so not a ton. We ended up breaking fairly even last year. I think we were down maybe 40 bucks when it came all back. But yeah, we broke fairly even. Wasn't anything spectacular, but this year, you know, I have a goal of really ripping a lot of these drafts. My plan is to get anywhere between that 250 and 300 range. I know for some of these other best ball channels, that's like, you know, amateur numbers. That's a lot of drafts for us, so we're going to be ripping that many this offseason, but hopefully we do have our first big placement this year. That would be really ideal. Now, excuse me. Now, I will tell you guys, if you're looking at the screen, it probably looks a little bit different. I'll show you guys this over here. We are using a tool today from our friends over at Best Ball Overlay. They're new friends of the channel. If you guys are interested, they will give you 25% off when you sign up using code LeagueFFB for a subscription. I'll kind of give you guys the rundown, but it's a really good edge in fantasy football best ball drafts because it gives you the ability to see, you know, these percentages, these exposure percentages here on the screen right away. As you can see, I have the championship weeks as well. So those playoff weeks, 15, 16, and 17 for each of these players. Really gives you the ability to go out there and see, you know, what players you have, what players you could get more of, which players you need to kind of get away from because maybe you're overexposed. As you can see, we got a lot of Saquon Barkley. So maybe if we have the number 2 pick, we go Justin Jefferson on a few of them. That's kind of the way that we're looking at this. Could definitely be some stuff that we are trying to get away from, but that's kind of the edge that this is going to give you. And not only is it going to give you that, you're also going to see this over here. I'll try and pull it over to the side. I want you guys to be able to see this. But there's a combination tool as well. So when you click this combination tool, when you go over and look at some of these players that you draft, as we draft, they're going to get added to this tool. It'll tell you how many teams you have with that player and what players you've drafted them with. So it kind of helps you get some unique combinations as well. So it's a really cool tool. I think right now it's $40 on their website. If you use code LeagueFFB, it'll be $30 because you get that 25% off. So that's definitely something we're going to be using today to help us win. We're still waiting on 6 people. It feels like a long time that we have to wait for these drafts to fill for some reason. John says, even if you break even for the year, it's always a dub. Damn straight. I mean, look, if you're doing these for fun, which I've kind of been drafting these for fun for the last couple of seasons, it's just, you know, a way to stay sharp on ADPs. I've used these as kind of ways to stay sharp on the redraft ADPs for my redraft leagues. And breaking even is always, you know, fine. Obviously, we'd like to win big, and I think that's what we're going to try and do this year with all of those tournaments we're entering. You also have John saying, I've gotten to the week 14, 17 playoff stage, but lost. I have as well in a couple of ones. I've even been dabbling in some of these best ball PGA Tour drafts as well. I was in a couple of those, and we got into the 3rd round. We're in the 3rd round right now of one of those. I think it's called the Albatross. So you go through the 4 majors. I've progressed through the first 2. We're in the 3rd of 4, so we'll see how that one goes. But that one's pretty fun as well. I follow the PGA Tour. I don't know if a lot of people that watch this channel follow the PGA Tour. But look, we're still waiting on 4 more people. Trying to get people to enter this draft with us. If you're watching the channel and you want to rip a Best Ball Mania draft, go ahead and hit that 30-second lobby for us. We can get in there. Emmanuel says, what do you think of a Caleb Williams and Rome stack for Dynasty? I love it. I love it. I think Caleb Williams is a player that's going to take a step forward this year. I have him still as a top 7 quarterback in my Dynasty fantasy football rankings. Rome Odunze is a player that I think can go, you know, have a good year too. They're talking very highly of him. Antoine Randall L's been talking highly about him. A lot of people have been talking highly about him. And then Luther Burden is also dealing with a soft tissue injury. It doesn't seem like it's supposed to be super serious, but any lack of playing time in OTAs, training camp, all that stuff, that's definitely, you know, not what you want for a rookie wide receiver. And that only benefits a guy like Rome. So I definitely like that for him. Morik says, Hang, what up, man? Hope everything's going well for you. And then John says, hopefully it hits. Damn sure. Hopefully that one hits for sure. we got through the Masters on that one, John, and then it was the PGA Championship. Just got 2 more majors to go, but we got lucky because I have Rory McIlroy on that PGA best ball team, and he won the Masters, so that definitely helped us a lot in our scoring. All right, so I apologize. We're still kind of waiting. Appreciate, you guys in the chat shooting some questions. Happy to keep answering some more while we wait for this to fill. I was kind of expecting it to go faster. Look, this is 2 weeks in a row where it started to fill very slowly. So maybe I need to start, entering these before the stream even starts, because we end up waiting 5, 6, 7 minutes before this even fills up. I'll just come over here and then we can wait for it to fill. I'll answer the questions while we wait. Morg says, is this BBM? Yes, it is. This is Best Ball Mania 6. We're in the 30-second lobby, so if you want to hop in with us, go ahead and hop in. Would love to draft against you, but this is a 30-second lobby for the BBM 6. Okay, we got about 2 more people left, and then we'll know where we're drafting from. I'll be honest, I've been getting a lot of teams this year already, kind of where I've been drafting in the early parts of these drafts. I'm not a big fan of drafting in the early part. I think that beginning of that round 2-3 turn, that feels like a cluster, of players that really I don't have any strong conviction on any of them. I think all of them are going to be fine. So, I hate being in that tier because you're usually the one picking first in that grouping of guys rather than getting the guy that kind of falls. And I like being in the back of the first round because at the back of the first round, you get a ton of guys like Puka, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, bunch of other stuff. And then in the second round, you can get a guy like Christian McCaffrey or something like that. So I like being at the back. Hopefully we get to the back. Morg says I must have done 20 seconds or something. Yeah, I think 20 seconds is the default. I like to do 30 seconds when I'm streaming just because I kind of have a lot going on with the questions and some of the other stuff. So I like to give myself the extra 10 seconds. But if I'm not streaming, I'm ripping 20 seconds because it just goes by faster. But yeah. Emmanuel says, what are your thoughts on J.J. McCarthy this season? Don't get me started. I will speak to you. Let me just hit the disclosure right now. I'm going to speak to you as a Vikings fan, and then I'll give you my fantasy analysis. But as a Vikings fan, I'm really fucking excited. I think he's going to be really damn good. I think he's going to be a player that is the franchise quarterback for the Vikings for a long time. Now, for fantasy, I don't know what that looks like this year. I think for Dynasty, he's a guy that's going to probably flirt with, in 12 months' time, top 12 type of numbers in Dynasty leagues. But I really like J.J. McCarthy, and I think that's just really how strongly I feel about the coaching and the situation that he's in. Plus, I think he's a hardworking kid. I think he's a good kid, and has some talent, obviously, going and winning some championships there at Michigan. So I like him a lot, man. But I kind of have to say that. Now, we did... My bad. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you for that. I was going to say, we're drafting from the 6th spot. I haven't drafted a lot here. And really, I'm focusing on Gibbs and Puka. That's what I was saying. We don't have a lot of them. So thank you for telling me I was muted. I think I muted that before I switched to the other overlay, and then it stuck. So thank you for that. I would have hated to do this whole draft muted and not realized. Achan there is kind of crazy. That's very crazy. I'm going to go Gibbs, and we'll build around Gibbs. This dude trolling. We'll see what a second round pick is. All right, Puka off the board. Here with this tool, you guys can kind of see this combination tool starting to work now. We've only had Gibbs on one team before. The one team that we had Gibbs on, looks like we went Jaden Daniels. We also went fairly light at the running back. We went Ladd McConkey in the second round with Terry McLaurin in the third round is what it looks like on this Gibbs team that we did draft. So I think I'm going to try and stay away from pairing him with Ladd again. That way we can kind of stay unique here. Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry off the board. You know, this is very interesting. I'm trying to see if this guy's trolling, because having Devon Achane come off the board is kind of crazy at the 5 spot. But I guess crazier things have happened. But it's, I don't know, it feels like it might be a little bit of trolling. A.J. Brown off the board. Brock Bowers off the board. We're going to be sitting here. Ideally, we'll go Drake London. But let's see what PJ has in mind. If not, I don't mind going Jonathan Taylor and going with the double running back. There we go. Ladd came off the board, so we'll go Drake London and make that our selection. So, like I said, last time we drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, we went with Ladd McConkey, so we'll stay away from that. And then we'll probably come back around, hopefully try and get a running back here in the third round. I like taking, you know, the pick of a guy like Kyren Williams. I think he's pretty undervalued. You see I got him at like 16%. Wouldn't mind taking a little bit of Breece Hall here either if he's in the right spot. A guy like Chase Brown. I think we'll try and go running back though and just go from there. I'll move Bucky and Jonathan Taylor to the top of this. That way we can kind of follow that, because if they fall, it's going to be a value. We'll go from there. I don't like Chase Brown above Kyren Williams. I think Kyren Williams is the better pick there, but that's just me. Emmanuel says, thoughts on Isaac Tesla, and do you think Laporta stocks will dive down due to Ben Johnson not being there in Detroit anymore? I think Tesla's a fine dart throw. I'm not super excited about him. They got a lot of mouths to feed there in Detroit, so it's hard for, you know, you to get super excited about Tesla as anything other than maybe like an Andre Yoshavash type of player. Like he is there for, you know, Cincinnati with T. Higgins and those other guys there. I think that's similar to what like Amon-Ra and JMO and Laporta and all those guys would be. At the end of the day, am I worried about Laporta for Ben Johnson departing? I'm not. I think he's still fine. I think that offense is still going to be fine. I'm still buying into the Detroit offense, even with Ben Johnson departing. They hired in-house, you know, underneath. So hopefully it stays consistent, because it's somebody that's still been, you know, running the offense with Ben Johnson for the last couple of years. All right, it looks like we're going to be back here in a second. I would love to get the Kyren Williams pick, because Kyren Williams, you know, correlates pretty well. Jahmyr Gibbs here, week 15 against the Rams. And then we got Drake London, week 17 against the Rams in that championship week. So even though we have 16.7% Kyren, he correlates really well with the guys that we have on the roster. And now we're already really correlated, you know, with our first 3 picks here with Gibbs, Kyren, and Drake London, all of these guys playing each other in those championship weeks. So if we have some big games, which I think these are going to be some high-scoring games, obviously the Rams at Detroit, that should be or Detroit at the Rams, that should be high-scoring. Also having, you know, the Rams there at Atlanta should also be high-scoring. So we got some good correlation here. That should be very good for us to keep building around. Now, as I'm looking at this, that kind of gives us the ability to just put here Stafford late. You know, Stafford is definitely somebody we can correlate here with Kyren. You can correlate a guy like Goff. You could even get a guy like Penix rolling in here. Another matchup that I might potentially like in this run here is I like that Arizona matchup with Kyler Murray. That would be interesting. To get a back stack on that one. And then even Tampa Bay with Baker there. That's an interesting one as well. So we got some quarterback options that we can go with if we want to get one of these guys. Obviously, the earliest drafted one is going to be Baker, and then Kyler, and so on. I wouldn't mind trying to get Kyler as our first quarterback to try and build this roster around him. Even a guy like Mike Evans would be interesting. we can't get him, which we're not going to get him, we could maybe go a guy like... I don't mind going Tet here. I like Tet. I haven't drafted a lot of Tet, so I'll pull the trigger on Tet and then see what we can do here. The next one, we're going to be sitting in the middle. Maybe a guy like Mixon is interesting. I also wouldn't mind a Kenneth Walker. He would be interesting as well. One of those two guys. Probably get another running back. I like to have 2 or 3 through like my first 6 rounds. I thought about going Jameson Williams, because if we went Jameson Williams, you know, we would have had that double Detroit, and then we could have really targeted Goff and went from there. But this feels like a good start. Let's see, with this Gibbs team, who did I go QBs last time? Daniels and Mayfield. So maybe we don't go Mayfield on this one. We did go Mixon with that one last time. Tight end, we went Laporta, so we still went with the Detroit one. I think we're good. I think I'm going to try and pull the trigger here on one of these two guys, though. We're up next. We are getting a little bit of a discount on Metcalf, but I really don't like Metcalf. I am going to go Walker just to keep it a little unique. I know we got 3, week 8 buys, but who cares, honestly. It wouldn't be bad to go Godwin maybe with the next one. Keep him, just keeping all of this correlated for the most part. Wouldn't mind Olave either. Not a great offense, I don't think, but he should be the number 1 guy by a pretty wide margin as long as he's healthy. Also wouldn't mind going Jordan Addison. It's kind of what we're looking at here. I'll go any of these guys. Whoops, as soon as I did that, Addison went off the board. I think we're going to get all of these wide receivers taken before we get our next pick, though. Save us, Godwin, please. God damn, dude. All right, so we're going to have to pick somewhere else. I hate once those kind of guys come off the board. If we can still get Rome, I'll still get Rome. Not a big fan of the Juwan Jennings pull here. We could go Debo. I don't like Debo, but I don't have any of him really drafted, so I'll rip it, see what happens there. I haven't drafted a ton of him. But that's kind of that grouping. I'll go back and kind of show you guys that grouping that I like to try and get in on. It's really everything that just went right here. So Pickens, Waddle, Addison, Olave, Godwin, Rome. It's like 6 wide receivers right here that I really like, which is why typically when I'm around this way, I like to just pull one of the running backs like Walker, Mixon, Kamara, Harvey, because I feel like there's a ton of wide receivers that I like here and not a ton of running backs. But if those guys go, then you lean running back, and taking the 3 before you get to round 6 is where you kind of feel like you get yourself in a hole, which I kind of felt like we got ourselves in a little bit of a hole right there. Ended up, picking a player that I don't love in Deebo Samuel, but obviously we like the offense, and those playoff weeks with Philly and Dallas should be pretty high scoring as well, hopefully. So there should be some good games there, even though I don't love the player. I do really want to try and build this team around a guy like Kyler. I think if we could go like Kyler and Penix Stafford on as QB2, that would be ideal. What is the bye weeks? 5, 8, and 8. So if we go Kyler, Stafford, we do have to have a third QB probably, which I don't love. But I think we'll try and go Baker, Kyler at this next pick here, 91. This one we'll try and go wide receiver because we have some strong running backs. We're going to have to go 6 running backs, I think, with this one, just because of the bye weeks all being the same. But we'll see how it plays out. We could get lucky here. Good value on Laporta. It would correlate well, but I don't really want to pull that trigger. I will go... I think I'm going to go Pearsall here. Haven't drafted a lot of Pearsall. We'll get him on the team. Again, another good offense. That Week 17 game against Chicago should be high scoring. We could correlate this later with a guy like Caleb Williams if we get left out of the Baker and the Kyler picks, if we wanted to. Just gives us options. But I think that next pick is where I'm going to try and pull Kyler if we can. We're still getting that good value on Laporta, though. If he's at our next pick, we may have to just leave out, because it would be back correlation with these guys for the most part. We'd be trying to correlate with that Carolina and that Atlanta game. We'd also be trying to correlate with this Atlanta game here. So it's not necessarily like we're chasing a stack, which doesn't matter because Laporta goes right there. But if he did fall, I think that you definitely had a real argument to just pull the trigger. I might try and push our luck now and lean into like, I didn't mean to do that. Lean into like a Purdy instead. I don't have a ton of Kyler, but I'd like to try and stack Kyler more with like a McBride or more with a Marvin. We don't have that on the roster, so I think I'm going to push our luck. If they fall to the next one, that'll be fine, and that'll be good for us. But I think right here, ideally, I'll take B-Rob. And if B-Rob isn't there, I'll probably lean one of these wide receivers. I think we have an argument for any of them, really. But I think B-Rob is the guy that I want to pull here. And we get him. So I'm going to try and gamble. Maybe we can get a Kyler. If not, we can go Purdy with that next pick. Our next pick is 10 away. We're going to be picking that next one at 102, so we can definitely reach for Purdy's kind of around the turn, but we'll just take him early, secure him, have the Pearsall stack. Then we can back stack with, any of these Chicago Bears. Maybe Burden is somebody, maybe a guy like Loveland. I think Colson Loveland's down here. Yeah, we could go Colson Loveland, who I haven't drafted really any of. There's a lot of options. Let's check in on that one guy that was doing some weird shit. I mean, he's been pretty consistent with everybody else. Went a little early on Chuba. I guess he's just high on HN. Maybe he's just a guy high on... Hey, it is what it is. It was sus at the beginning, especially with the Gilbert Arenas shit that's been happening the last couple of days in the best ball community. We might get lucky with Kyler. Hey, never mind. Now the question is, do we push the luck on Purdy? Probably not. Probably not. Just secure what we have. And you'll see, once I select a quarterback, you guys will kind of see what this tool does a little bit. It's actually really cool. Purdy we just got sniped on Purdy. That's crazy. Okay. We should have been prepared for that. Why don't we go... I'll go Pittman Jr. Not ideal. Not ideal, not ideal. Let's see, 26, 39, 50. This would be 46, 62. I'm going to gamble, man. I'm at this point, we're kind of getting out of the territory of QBs that I really want to sit on. So we will probably go Penix, Stafford. I'm going to take Goff out of this. See what else we could go. We could go A-Rich, which is gross, but if you went as like a third QB, we could have him with Pittman. We could also go with Bryce Young with that Tetaroa McMillan pick. So that's something to keep an eye on. Gives us some options. Also, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I think the last time we took Gibbs, we had Baker. Who did we go with second round? It was Drake London. Last time we had Drake London, we had Baker, Caleb, Tua, Herbert. These are kind of the QBs that we drafted with him before. We've had Bijan on every... Or did we really have Bijan Robinson on every London team? No way. Oh, that's Brian Robinson. Clicked the wrong guy. Drake London, we had Purdy on those teams. We had Penix on 50% of them. We probably want to try and stack that a little more. We had CMC. Okay, nothing crazy. John says, do you like Penix as a prospect? I think he's all right. I'm not like overly excited about Penix. You know, he kind of lacks a lot of rushing upside, which you like to see in these types of tournaments. But in a dynasty league, you know, they used high draft capital on him. I think he's an interesting player for that, and a player that probably has the ability to pass for a lot of touchdowns. So he's interesting. I have him kind of as like a top 20 guy, not really a top 12 guy yet, obviously, but somewhere between that like 15 to 20 range. Let's see, we could go... Why don't we go Loveland? I haven't drafted a lot of Loveland. We'll take him. He correlates with the San Francisco game. And then I think with this next pick, I'll try and go... Might go Javonte. Yeah, probably go Javonte. And then 39, we're going to have to be looking at Penix. If we can't go Javonte, I'll go Marvin Mims or Shaheed. Either of those guys. It drives me nuts that this opens every time that I drag them. But we could do that. The thing with a guy like Javonte is he would correlate that week 17 with Debo. So if it's high scoring, you get some rushing touchdowns, passing touchdowns, things like that. That would work out. Marvin Mims doesn't really have any correlation, but I don't mind having like a big play wide receiver like that on the team. But I think Javonte makes more sense. If not him, we haven't really pulled any Ramondres or Jaden Blues. We could lean into the Jaden Blue kind of thing if we want to. There went Blue. We can lean Ramondre. John says, I still believe Javonte could be good again. Here's the thing. If any team is crazy enough to give a guy who's lost the explosion a bunch of carries, it's the Dallas Cowboys. That's, that's the reality of it. The Cowboys will do it. We are getting good value on Dak there. We don't have really anything. I mean, you have the Washington game, and then you could get Ferguson in there if you wanted to. I'm still going to go Javonte. And then our next pick will be Penix. That's going to be the goal, is to go Penix with the next one. I don't care. It's going to be a little bit early, I think, because what's our next pick? Penix ADP is 46. Our next pick is 39. We kind of gambled earlier. I'm okay reaching a little bit at 39 to grab a guy like Penix, even if there's some other QBs on the board, because there's going to be guys like, there's going to be these players on the board. We just don't have any correlation to them, and I would really like to get that London Penix stack. And then I think Penix week 5, Stafford week 8. We can do the back stack in that championship week against the Rams, give you some correlation, maybe go with a guy like Terrence Ferguson at the tight end position to go with Loveland, although that gives us 2 rookie tight ends, which I don't love. There's a lot that we could do still. You can get a guy like a big play guy like Tutu Atwell here if you wanted to at the wide receiver position. You can go Jarquez Hunter if you want. We do have Kyron still, so I guess maybe not Jarquez. We could go Kyron still with that Stafford stack. It's a little bit of an unorthodox stack, but it still works. I still don't mind, even if we go Bryce, Stafford, I still don't mind pulling A-Rich late and getting the rushing upside and having the Pittman stack. I think Rachaad White's pretty undervalued in best ball drafts. He averaged 12.5 fantasy points per game last year in PPR. A lot of people are really excited about Bucky. I think Bucky's going to be fine. He's obviously the 1A, but White feels like people are fading him just because they like Bucky, and I think both of those guys are going to exist in that backfield. I always do this. There's too many teams with one QB that we probably don't get it on the way back around. Let's just take Penix. So now you'll see, drafting your QB kind of unlocks the ability for you to see this. So Michael Penix gets this purple box around him in the tool. You'll see Kyron Williams is correlated with the Penix pick because of that Atlanta game. We were kind of looking at it ahead of time, planning this, but you'll see, and then you get the stack with Drake London. So it does kind of allow you to see that. And then in this draft room now, we'll see Pitts is correlated with Penix. You see Jalen McMillan has that week 15 game. It makes it pretty easy to see Matthew Stafford there. So not a bad You know, we missed out on the guy we wanted earlier, but we're still getting some good plays here. Here at pick 50, 63, 74. Do we play the gamble game? What is Bryce Young's 14? Do we play the gamble game, go with a wide receiver here or a tight end here, and then just take which one of these QBs fall? I want Stafford for that Week 17 game, but if it's Bryce Young, it's Bryce Young. And I think looking at this turn, 2, 2, 3, there's a couple guys who have 1, but more teams kind of have 2 to 3 quarterbacks. Still guys like Herbert, Love, Tua. It's risky, but I think I'm going to do it because worst case scenario too, we can still go A-Rich. I think I'm going to gamble here. We'll go with the wide receiver, the tight end. Honestly, I wouldn't mind going Kyle Pitts. I don't love Kyle Pitts, but having that correlation with Penix, London, Pitts isn't bad at the tight end spot. Where we at? We're 1 away. It's still risky. I think it's definitely risky to let it go, but I'm doing it. I'm gambling. Fuck it. Kyle Pitts. So we get Pitts correlated here with that London game. It would be really nice to get Stafford because we're already kind of heavy into that Week 17 matchup. Arizona here, you could go like a Michael Wilson, who's still probably going to be the big play guy for Kyler Murray, deep threat downfield. What else do we have here? Running backs, we feel fairly good. Maybe one more. Just because we have all those Week 8s. But I'm hoping that B-Rob and Javonte, in Week 8 can just do enough to get into the lineup. But yeah, Stafford would be nice for the next one. I think I'd go him over Bryce if I get the chance. But I'm okay settling for Bryce just because of the Tet McMillan. And we kind of got through the first part. Now we get, this back around. The double picks with the 1 QB team. Hopefully he goes like Tua. What does he have on the roster? He's got Jalen Waddle. He could go Tua. He's got Devontae Adams too, though. It's gonna be. I just have a feeling he goes Stafford over. Yeah. Smart move. He also had that correlated game. I think he was targeting that Week 15 against the Rams and Lions. So we gambled. It is what it is. Hopefully, Beto doesn't have anybody. He's got Leggett. Could stack if that's intriguing to him. But if not, we might get out of it. Maybe Benny. Benny's kind of been taking some guys that we like. We might have gambled and lost, but we'll see. I'm nervous. There goes Dowdle. Hey, Rich, that's crazy. That's crazy. Who's he got? It's just naked, huh? Just a naked A-Rich and a 3 QB build with Jaden Daniels and Justin Fields. I honestly respect. Let's hope we just get Bryce here. Nice. All right, so we'll get Bryce. 15 or Week 5, Week 14. We get the Seattle Week 17 championship. You get the stack there. We're still going to go one more QB. Honestly, wouldn't mind taking... Could go Darnold. Could go Cam Ward. Feels kind of gross, though. I'm not a big Cam Ward guy, at least in year 1. But he definitely has more rushing upside than Tua or Darnold. But also, if we get Tua at a value there, it's going to be hard for me not to pull the trigger there because, as you can see, I definitely already like taking Tua at 27%. And I definitely won't mind doing it again here if we need to. I think we're going to end up going... I think we might end up going 3, 5, 7, 3. That might be the build for us. Damn, dude, we're getting kind of destroyed here. I was just looking at Gesicki too. God damn. Damn, dude. Okay, well, let's go Otten. He's correlated with Atlanta and Carolina. We also had the 2, week 5 buys. At this point, I might just rock with the 2 QBs. This is risky. Very, very risky, but I might just rock with it. I gotta get, like, at least 2 more wide receivers on this roster, though. And we have 3 more rounds. And I need 2 wide receivers. Yeah, I'm gonna rock with... I mean, at this point, it's just fucking dart throws. You hope the dart plays this year. You go Tyler Shuck. I hate drafting Tyler Shuck. Russell Wilson maybe for the year. I don't like any of this. I'm going with the 2 QBs. I think I can get more value going with the running back here, and then probably 2 wide receivers to close it out. Probably a guy like right down here is kind of... I care less about the exposures because it's kind of just like get your guy. Who do you feel like is a good dart throw? I don't mind a guy like Yoshavash. Wouldn't mind a... I think we'll try and go Yoshavash now, I guess. Assuming we don't get picked on him. Could also go to Mario Douglas, but I think Yoshavash is the pick that I'll go. Week 14, week 11. 14. We might be more likely to get Yoshavash on the way back. I don't think that Douglas falls anymore. He's 81. We're already getting him at 87. It's not a big value, but I think we're more likely to get Yoshavash. Plus, if Diggs starts slow, Douglas could still be involved early. It's hard not just clicking all the running backs down in this round, though. You got all the handcuffs, high upside handcuff type of options. I think here I'll try and go maybe Lloyd. Marks. I haven't drafted a lot of Marks. What is Marks by week 6? I might do that because Marks correlates here with who was it? Who are we looking at? Houston. Maybe nobody. Never mind. Neither of these guys have any correlation though, so I think I'm gonna go Marks. I haven't drafted a lot of him. He should get the backup job there to mix in. We'll take him, and then we'll try and flip to a wide receiver. I don't mind going Tutu as a big play guy. Also don't mind going a guy like Diami, Wicks, Roman Wilson would be interesting. Ty Felton, Franklin, Whittington. There's lots of options down here. I was halfway tempted to go Dart, but I don't think I will. We might still have Lloyd on the board coming back around. I just don't need him anymore.
You see here, kid, you gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes after or what came before. You just gotta bend your knees, take a deep breath, and jump.
I think we played chicken and I think we lost a little bit. I'll go back and I'll look, but there's a couple opportunities here where we could have done something. I'm not loving the QB room. I think that's where I'm struggling with this team a little bit, is the QB room. I feel like we got left out a couple of times, trying to gamble. But it's still not a bad team. It's correlated well, which is what you can ask for. You know, we're going to be kind of hoping that, you know, Tampa Bay has a big game against Atlanta in those playoff weeks. We're going to hope that, you know, a guy like, you know, the Rams and Atlanta is a good game if it comes down to that week. I'm going to go Tutu just to double dip into that game. I think he has a different role. I could have went like Jordan Whittington, but I feel like he's a guy that needs to have, you know, an injury to Adams or needs to have an injury to Puka for him to step into a role, because he kind of plays a little bit more like those guys. Whereas Tutu's like a big play guy down the field, established in that big play role, and all I need is for him to catch a big touchdown in a championship week, and it's lights out. So I'll take him there. Give us the big play with that championship week correlation. Maybe I'm being a little bit too strict or harsh on the roster, but let's go back and let's look at let's go to this completed drafts here. Let's go back and let's look at the board, because I kind of want to recap this and see where we could have done a little different. I'm going to throw that all the way up. I don't know if that's going to work. Maybe. There we go. All right, so I'm just looking at this board here. You know, first round, you know, I have no regrets really with any of these first picks. Gibbs, London, Kyron, Tet. I think right here is an interesting pick. I had already put Joe Mixon on a couple of these Jahmyr Gibbs teams and a couple of these Drake London teams, as you guys saw using that combo tool. So it's kind of why I got away from him. However, I picked Kenneth Walker that has a week 8 bye that's the same as Kyron and Gibbs, which kind of put me in a trap there. Kind of almost feel like I wish I would have went Joe Mixon anyways, but I don't mind it. I think we recovered fine going with Brian Robinson and Javonte Williams. That should still give us some guys that can play on those weeks, plus, you know, a Woody Marks if he can get in, Joe Mixon injury, things like that, maybe the third down guy. When it came to QB, I think here's where we kind of gambled because we had the ability here with this Brian Robinson pick to go quarterback. I could have went Kyler Murray or Brock Purdy there. We played chicken at this moment and decided to wait on QB, hoping we were going to grab him with the next one. They both went. So then we had to kind of make an adjustment. That's where I go with the wide receiver. And I don't mind that pick. Even, honestly, I don't mind that one at all either. The Colston Loveland pick feels like it's on an island a little bit. I haven't drafted a lot of Colston Loveland, but we correlated that with that San Francisco game there with Ricky Pearsall. Although I still feel like if we would have waited like 2 more rounds, the difference between Loveland and Tucker Kraft and Ferguson isn't really any different. And had I known we could have got a value in Kyle Pitts, I'm probably not ripping Loveland here. I probably would have rather ripped... Honestly, I probably would have rather just ripped Jared Goff. And this probably should have been the Goff pick to get with Jahmyr Gibbs. And that probably would have made me feel better. I think it's this pick. The Colston Loveland pick, I think, got us off the rails a tiny bit. We recovered fine. The problem is that we ended up going Kyle Pitts here, and then Matthew Stafford comes off the board. Same with A-Rich and Geno in that turnaround, which we were looking at A-Rich and Stafford. So the Kyle Pitts one, I'm not mad at that one at all, though. That one's just playing the game. We got caught out. But I think if the Loveland pick is Jared Goff, I'm much happier about the roster. And then we would have had Goff and Penix, Kyle Pitts, K. Dotton. We could have ditched one of these wide receivers and went like a tight end late. We could have went Terrence Ferguson or something late instead. JT Sanders maybe late. I think that's probably the only thing that I would have done different. It's that Colston Loveland pick got us out of sync, and I think the reason why was because we were waiting on those QBs here in this round, and then we kind of just went. So that's all that it was. Other than that, live and you learn. Like I said, this was the second Best Ball Mania draft that we've done. We're going to go and do a bunch of these still ripping a bunch of these drafts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed tonight's stream, no matter if we didn't get that stack or not. We were looking for that Purdy stack. That's what I wanted, or the Kyler one. But hey, we got the Penix stack with Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and we got a Bryce Young and Ted McMillan stack. So what can you do about it? We'll be back next week, another Best Ball Mania stream. See, we're not at the 20 likes, not even close. So maybe next week we'll lower the goal a little bit just to see if we can get there to do another draft, because we will rip a couple of those if we can hit those like goals. But because we're not at that tonight, I am going to be signing off. So I appreciate everybody watching. We'll see you later this week. We're going to be updating those running back rankings and those tight end rankings for your Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues and another Dynasty Trade show. But nothing else for you today. So until our next one, peace out.